Hello there. This is the third video in a series around the Pocketbook Inkpad X Pro, which is the latest device that I'm reviewing. And this video is going to feature a couple miscellaneous items and then some battery testing. We'll start off talking about some things that turned out not to work as I had thought that they might, so we'll see what those things are and what that says about the device. Then we'll go a little bit more into global handwriting, which I kind of introduced that concept in the prior video. We'll see how it's applied in this video. We'll talk about some files I've sideloaded onto the device. You know, we've got a template we'll try to use in the Notes app and a couple file types like a PDF, CBR, and EPUB, just see how those handle. And then we'll go in finally into the detailed battery breakdown through my usual testing process. And we'll see how this device compares to others. So that's the goal of this video. Let's get right on into it. So my original plan was to show off how a Bluetooth keyboard works. And I've got my trusty Bluetooth mechanical keyboard right here. And I've used this on other e-note-taking devices. And I was actually able to pair it with the X Pro. However, regardless of whether I was in the Notes tab or I went into Google Docs, it just didn't work. So I tried it a couple times. As I said, I've used this in the past, so you know, I don't believe that it's user error. My only conclusion at this point is this device can only handle audio Bluetooth and not keyboard. So in lieu of other evidence, I'm going to assume at this point that keyboards are not able to connect to the device. And that certainly seems to be the case here. Kind of on that theme of kind of disappointing things, I did try to download OneNote. That didn't work. I tried to download Word. That didn't work. Whether it's because this is on the older version of Android, the 8.1, or because of the internals of the device, those applications just aren't available. Of course, I do have Google Docs here, so that is available. And I did bring on Evernote for our demonstration around global handwriting. So some successes, but the limitations of this device, and probably the Android 8.1 in particular, is starting to kind of show through. And so this video is probably going to be a little bit shorter than I had originally intended. But we do have the Evernote app, and so we have the ability to look at global handwriting. So why don't we go ahead and look at that, although this demonstration will be a little bit curious as well. Anyway, let's go into the Evernote app, and we're just going to go ahead and create a handwriting. Okay, so we don't have global handwriting on currently, so we're going to see what the interaction looks like without that on. So let's go ahead and write in hi. Okay, not that great. Now in theory, if we do global handwriting, we're going to have a better experience. So we're going to go ahead and turn that on. And then there's a couple options. We're going to click on handwriting mode. I can use a pen, a brush, a pencil, or a brush. And also there's different eraser types I can use, and you can do the line thickness. We'll go ahead and go to 4 on that, I guess. And let's go ahead and click out. Okay, so now we're back in the Evernote app, and we've got global handwriting on. So what we're going to see is I'm going to write, and that writing will be on the device. It'll be using the global handwriting app, and then in theory it's going to translate that writing onto Evernote. Now I've done a little bit about this before I did the video, and it's a clunky experience, so we'll see how this goes. Okay, not terrible. So you saw that I wrote hi right about here, and then that was global handwriting, and then it translated that to what we see here. Better than what we saw when we were drawing right into the Evernote app itself. So that is an improvement. know, it's okay. It's not a particularly good translation. It's a little strange that you know, it basically, you do it like here, and it goes to about there, or something like that. It's okay. It's you know, it's a little clunky, but it is better using global handwriting than just trying to draw into Evernote. But I'm not sure how often someone would use this particular version of global handwriting, just because there's so few apps that allow writing in the app. And again, OneNote would have been the best one. It's just not available here. But the other form of global handwriting I think is better. So let's go ahead and go home, and we'll go ahead and pick that out. And this is the picture mode. And of course, you still have all the same options that we had before. The key difference here, though, is what global handwriting will now allow you to do is it's going to allow you to write on whatever you're looking at, and then you can take a screenshot of that. So let's go ahead and do that. We're here in the just the app screen. And we can write here like so. The writing's just fine, and then the thought process is you do this drop down bar and you click screenshot, and that will preserve the image, and here it is, and then it puts it into a folder under internal storage and screenshots, and there we go. So it's now captured that. So that part of global handwriting works pretty well. So no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, you can turn on global handwriting, you can write on top of that image, and then save it as a single document image. Again, just to kind of illustrate, if I turn off global handwriting, like so, oops, okay, we're off. The stylus doesn't do anything. So that's an example of global handwriting in action. Again, the notes translation feature, as we saw in Evernote, was a little bit of a hit and miss affair, but the other version of it, where you can just draw on any image, is fine. But again, every single snapshot you take will be a separate file. So it's probably good for just, if you just want to maybe do a read and sign document, that could work. Put it all on one screen, sign, and then you can do the the snapshot, or just kind of singular one-off type things like that. That's probably what it's more suited for, because otherwise, if you have a whole document, maybe you've got 20 pages, you're writing on 15 of them, you're going to have 15 documents basically that you're going to have to work with. So somewhat limited, but that's global handwriting in action. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show is basically I took some files from my computer and I dragged and dropped them onto this device by connecting the cable from this device to my computer. And I basically did a couple documents. One was a template, and that's a document that I created it in Microsoft Word, saved it as a PDF, and then I loaded it here into the Note template directory, with the idea being that we should be able to see it as a template when we go into Notes. So we're going to take a look at that. And then I also brought on a few documents, a CBR file, a PDF, and an EPUB, and those I just put on the root directory. So we'll see how the device recognizes those and how well it can launch and navigate through those. We did do a review in the previous video on the 2 reader apps that are available on this device. So we're not going to rehash that. We're just going to see how well, really quickly the documents launch and navigate. So let's start with the Notes template. We're going to click on Notes. And I'm just going to go ahead and start a new note here. And we're going to go over to Templates, which is down below here. Okay, and if I go to Local, I'm hoping to see it there. And I don't. So even though I put it under Note Template, it's not there. Now why don't we try to go through the file directory and see if we can see it that way. So no template. Okay, there it is. I'm going to click on that. Okay, so here it's going to go ahead and open it either in its Pocketbook Reader app or its X Reader app. Just go ahead and do that just to see what it looks like. Okay, that's what it looks like, and I was hoping to use this as a letterhead, or template rather. Okay, so let's go back into Notes. Back into Template. And see if it's changed now that we've opened it. No. So this is not recognizing a PDF file as a template. That's interesting. So then I wonder if it might only use PNG files. So some e-note-taking devices are like that. Most accept PDFs, but some only accept PNGs. And I wonder if that's the case here. Let me just go to the internal. Yeah, there's nothing here but the normal templates. Okay, so loading a PDF did not work. So that's a bummer. Let's go ahead and get out of here. And that's the theme of this video, things not working as we'd hoped. We'll go into Files, and as I mentioned, let's go ahead and back out of this. Okay, so I downloaded some documents. Let's see if any of those documents got added to the shortcut button here. Yes, they did. So this this document, this EPUB document, was one that I had brought over. Let's see, there's no sort features here. Okay, let's see if we can find the other ones. A lot of these others are... Oh, that's interesting. So they do have a user manual. Okay. I'm not even sure how these are organized. But we're getting a tour of all the documents, if anyone was curious about that. A lot of these are in various languages. Again, as this device generally caters to a European clientele, so it's French and Spanish and other languages across the continent. Okay, I don't see the other documents I loaded in here. Nope, here it is. Okay, so there is the comic book file here. Oh, and there's the PDF. So yes, all the documents are actually here in the shortcut. Kind of annoying though, we had to go through 15 pages to get to that. So alternately, I could go into just the storage, and here under the root directory is where I put them, is the PDF file, the CBR, and the EPUB. So we'll just go ahead and launch from here. All right. And this one is pretty responsive. And again, this is going into the Pocketbook Reader application. All right, let's back out of this. My bad, I should have used the back button. Okay. See what the CBR looks like. Get that to launch. Ooh, look at that contrast. All right, let's see if we can fix that. Maybe even go to the bottom. Wow, it's still really dark. Oh, there we go. Much better. All right, not too bad. Let's use the back button this time. And finally, we'll open up this EPUB file. And here we'll go ahead and just open it up in the other reader. just to mix it up. There we go. All right, all pretty much consistent with what we saw in the visual tour. But an example of side-loading documents that we can do. Let's go ahead and take a look at that user guide. So library. I'm sorry, no, we have files. There we go. Fortunately, I don't know where the user guide was in terms of the folder structure. Here it is. And just get a quick look at what's available. Really a lot of the stuff that I covered, actually. Oh, that's it. That's the entire... Okay. Yeah, here we go. So headset speakers and car audio systems. No mention of keyboards, which is consistent with my experience. So, all right. Okay, so let's take a look at the results from the battery testing. And here's our growing grid of e-note-taking devices. The Pocketbook Inkpad X Pro being the latest device, which we've put on top, has a 3200 milliamp per hour battery. I can't remember if I'm saying that correctly. But anyway, everyone's measured in the same units, and you can see that it's a slightly larger battery than the Scribe, which is just below it, a little bit larger than the Remarkable, which is toward the bottom, which is also a 10-inch screen. And those are probably the closest devices to this one. So anyway, let's begin with looking at the standby time with the screen off. And this is when the device has all its power save features turned off. In fact, power save features are turned off on all of these measurements. But in this particular case, the screen is turned off as well. So imagine you've got your device sitting there on the table. At a moment's notice, you can press the power button and it will turn on, and in 1 or 2 seconds or so, you can start using the device. That's what it means to be on standby in this particular case. And the per hour drain of this Pocketbook device is 0.09%, which is okay. I mean, it's kind of in the middle of the pack, along there with the Supernote devices, better than the Note Air 3C, which is notable. So not a bad showing. Unfortunately, not indicative of the performance in the rest of the categories. And as we go over to the standby time with the screen on, same concept as before, but the screen is on. So you can imagine if you opened up the Notepad app, you've got a notepad out, and it's just sitting there waiting to write on. That's what we're talking about with standby screen on. It's pretty much ready to go. You don't have to press the power button. You just start interacting with the device, but it's just sitting there. Well, the battery drain here is a whopping 6%. Huge. It blows really in a bad way the Remarkable 2, which had been just under 4%. So a very bad result. And unfortunately, this is the battery drain that will permeate through some of our other measurements, as it's impossible to kind of isolate this impact. So it's going to be a rough ride pretty much from here on out. And we can see that in the Wi-Fi, where it comes in at 7.4%. Again, nothing's really that close. When we start looking at front lighting, and I mentioned here I'm looking at full and half cold front lighting. However, generally speaking, I don't find that there's a difference in battery drain and color temperature. There certainly wasn't here. I do actually measure warm as well, just to validate that, and indeed it's pretty much the same as the cold drain. So with front lighting all the way on, and on the cold setting, this device drained 9.2%. Again, nothing's really close. It really stands out. And if we go to half lighting, 6.6%, and relatively speaking, actually worse. So even though less battery drain than full lighting, which is what we would expect relative to these other devices that we're comparing to. Half cold lighting just isn't very good at all in terms of battery drain. So our last thing that we'll be measuring is a reading. In this case, we'll be using the Kobo app. And the battery drain there, which generally is low relative to other activities because you're taking some time to read a page, you're only refreshing as you're switching between pages, so it tends to be a fairly battery-friendly activity. And on this device, it was an outrageous 7.3% drain. So every hour, it was draining about that. Continuous note-taking, which is an exercise, kind of an extreme exercise, where I began the stopwatch and I just start writing and I keep writing. I'll write for a minimum of 10 minutes and then wait for the battery counter to go down. So these writing tests usually go from 10 to 20 minutes. It just depends on the device. And then we measure that drain. It is an extreme rate in the sense that that type of intensive note-taking is not common and generally isn't sustained over time. But while the percentage itself may not be that meaningful, how this device performs relative to other devices is, and this actually is a little bit of a surprise and a deviation from what we've seen before, as this one falls to 14.3%, which isn't great, but it's not the worst. In fact, there's two other devices that actually clock in with worse battery drains, so kind of a little bit of a minor victory for the X Pro here at the end of these battery results. All right, that concludes this video. So we've got one more in the series. We're going to go into the final verdict of all the pros and cons of this device. I'll kind of talk about how this device fits in the marketplace and who it might be for, and we'll basically wrap all this up in the next video. So I hope to see you there.